Have you ever walked past your cat's litter box and thought, yeah, that's probably fine, I cleaned it this morning, and then moved on with your day? Here's the uncomfortable part most people never hear. Some of the smallest litter box habits, things that feel completely harmless, can quietly stack up into real urinary stress over time. And in cats, urinary health and kidney strain are more connected than most owners realize. Not in a dramatic overnight way. Not in a one mistake and everything collapses way, but in a slow, subtle buildup that often goes unnoticed until something finally feels off. And the strange twist? It usually doesn't start with food, or age, or genetics. It starts with the litter box. Now, before that sounds like a worst-case scenario, stick with this for a moment. Because the goal here isn't panic, it's awareness. Once you understand what your cat is actually responding to in their environment, a lot of things suddenly start to make sense. Like why some cats start avoiding the box, or holding urine longer than they should, or acting restless around areas that used to be completely normal. So let's break this down carefully, because what looks like just cleaning the box is actually a lot more important than most people think. And the first place we need to look is something almost everyone gets slightly wrong without realizing it. 1. Scooping frequency. Let's start simple. You scoop once a day, maybe twice if you're extra careful. That feels responsible, right? But here's the detail most people miss. Within just a few hours, urine begins breaking down into ammonia. And to a cat's nose, which is dramatically more sensitive than ours, that shift isn't subtle. It's immediate. So by the afternoon, what feels a little used to you can feel completely unpleasant to your cat. And this is where the hidden chain reaction begins. A cat walks in leads to dislikes the smell, leads to spends less time, leads to rushes, leads to holds it longer. And holding urine consistently? That's where urinary strain begins to build over time. Think about it for a second. Your cat isn't just using a bathroom. They're deciding whether it feels safe enough to relax their body in that moment. And if the environment keeps feeling off, even slightly, they adapt in ways we don't always notice. Which brings us to something even more interesting. Because it's not just how often you clean. It's also what the litter actually smells like. 2. Scented litter plus depth. What smells clean to you might not to them. Scented litter sounds like a good idea. Lavender, fresh linen, mountain breeze. But here's the problem. That fresh smell is designed for humans, not cats. A cat's sense of smell is so sensitive that added fragrance doesn't soften odor. It layers over it. And sometimes that combination becomes overwhelming enough that cats simply avoid the box altogether. Now add another overlooked factor, litter depth. Many owners don't realize cats actually prefer around 3 to 4 inches of litter. Not just for comfort, but for control. Digging and burying is part of their natural behavioral rhythm. When the litter is too shallow, they don't get that full experience. And that small disruption can make them rush instead of relax. And rushed elimination? That's where incomplete emptying can occasionally become a factor in urinary discomfort. So at this point, it's not just smell or texture. It's whether the box feels like a place your cat can fully settle into. And speaking of settling in, there's one setup that looks convenient for us, but quietly stresses a lot of cats. 3. Covered boxes. The private bathroom that isn't always private for them. Covered litter boxes seem like a win. Cleaner look, less smell, more privacy. But from a cat's perspective, it's not always that simple. Inside a covered box, airflow is limited, which means odors don't disperse, they build. And remember, cats are experiencing that environment at a much stronger level than we are. So what feels contained to us can feel intensified to them. But there's another layer here. Cats don't like feeling trapped while they're vulnerable. Using the bathroom is one of those moments where instinctively they want awareness of their surroundings. When that visibility is removed, some cats tolerate it, but others develop subtle tension around the box. Not panic, not fear, just hesitation. And hesitation is where patterns start to change. Now here's where I want to pause for a second, because if your cat is still using a covered box without issue, that doesn't automatically mean anything is wrong. Cats are individuals. This is about patterns, not absolutes. But if you've noticed small changes, like quicker exits or avoidance, it's worth paying attention. And that brings us to something most people never think about until it becomes a problem. How many boxes are actually in the house? 4. Too few boxes plus bad placement, the quiet competition you don't see. Veterinary guidelines often suggest 1 litter box per cat plus 1 extra. And the reason isn't luxury, it's access. In multi-cat homes, subtle competition can happen. One confident cat may dominate preferred boxes, leaving others to wait or relocate. And when cats can't access a clean, comfortable option easily, they adapt. Sometimes by holding urine longer, sometimes by rushing, sometimes by finding alternative locations entirely. And none of those outcomes are ideal for urinary health. Placement matters just as much. A box next to a loud appliance in a high-traffic hallway or somewhere unpredictable introduces micro-stress each time it's used. And cats don't process that as noise. They process it as risk. So even if everything else is perfect, location alone can shift behavior over time. But there's still one more layer people rarely consider, and it's surprisingly chemical. And if you're still watching at this point, your cat is probably pretending they don't care what you're learning, but I guarantee they're mentally judging your litter setup right now. If you've ever caught your cat giving you that "you could be doing better" look, yeah, you're in the right place. All right, back to it. 5. Cleaning chemicals plus deep cleaning. The hidden residue problem. Strong cleaners like bleach might feel like the proper way to disinfect a litter box, but many of these products leave residues behind. And cats don't just use the box, they walk through it, then groom their paws. So anything left behind can eventually be ingested in tiny amounts over time. Not in a dramatic way, not in an immediate toxic way, but as a repeated, low-level exposure. That's why gentler cleaning methods, hot water, and mild unscented soap are often recommended. And then there's the deeper clean most people skip. Every couple of weeks, the entire box needs a full reset. Not just scooping the surface, but removing buildup that accumulates in scratches and corners. Because even when the litter looks clean, bacteria doesn't stop at what we can see. And that invisible layer can slowly affect odor, comfort, and consistency of use. Which brings us to the final piece that ties everything together. 6. Food plus water placement. The instinct most people forget. Cats are instinctively wired to separate elimination areas from food and water sources. In the wild, keeping those zones apart reduces contamination risk. So when food bowls are placed too close to litter boxes, some cats simply eat and drink less without us noticing. And reduced water intake leads to more concentrated urine, which over time increases urinary strain risk. So even something as simple as moving bowls into another room can quietly support better hydration habits. And that's really the pattern across everything we've talked about. It's not one catastrophic mistake. It's small environmental signals stacking together. If there's one idea to take from all of this, it's this. Your cat's litter box isn't just a bathroom. It's a behavioral environment. And every detail, smell, depth, placement, cleanliness, tells your cat whether it feels safe to relax their body or not. The good news? Most of these changes aren't expensive or complicated. They're small adjustments that shift comfort in a noticeable way. And when a cat feels comfortable using their box consistently, everything else tends to stabilize with it. Anyway, I should probably go check my own litter box situation, because I'm pretty sure my cat has been silently rating it this entire time. FurEver.